I'm Bailey. I'm currently full-time at college, aka full-time internship seeker. And I'm going to answer the first couple of questions I get for being in college, typically. First of all, so what's your major? I'm studying international agriculture and rural development. Then the next question is always, well, what do you plan to do with that major? I'm like, I don't know, but I know that I want to go into the agriculture industry and combine law and policy, international relations, and agriculture and technology to prevent the world from starving to death. And I would like to get a job so I don't starve to death. That would be really great. And speaking of death, I recently had an incident where I almost did die, accidentally. Accidentally almost died. I'm new to this adulting thing and doing my own laundry, and my socks weren't coming clean anymore in the washing machine. So I decided to be an adult and pre-soak them in my dorm room. And for perspective, my dorm room is about the size of a walk-in closet that I share with one other person. The windows are locked, there's no ventilation, and the door at the time was closed. So that's kind of the setup of where I'm bleaching my socks. And so I put my socks in the bleach, and I decided, oh, vinegar's good. I'll put vinegar in, and hydrogen peroxide. And it wasn't until I started to get really lightheaded and dizzy and hard to breathe that I was like, oh, is this one of those things you're not supposed to put on? And sure enough, I had made mustard gas, and so I'm now panicking, and I'm trying to use my little dinky fan to air out the room before my roommate gets home. And I'm like, please don't come home. And of course, she walks in the door as soon as I discovered that I made mustard gas, and she's like, Bailey, what are you doing? And she's a biochem major. I was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm sorry, I accidentally made mustard gas. Please don't be mad. And she's like, please, when I'm away, don't experiment with dangerous chemicals. Don't do that. And the reason why I was so obsessed with my sock hygiene was I was going to the doctor because I had an ingrown toenail. And so I talked to the doctor and I said, what do I do now? And she said, we need to have surgery to operate. And I said, is it that bad? She's like, yeah, it's really bad. And I said, well, the surgery, are you gonna take off part of the nail or the whole nail or the whole toe or the leg? Or what are we talking here? And she said, I can't make any promises. We'll have to figure out when we get there. So that wasn't terrifying. So this was my freshman year. I had 2 near-death experiences, and all anyone cares to ask me is, so, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Hopefully alive with all my toes. But seriously, in an interview, I really want to say something clever, I'm an international agriculture student trying to study the sustainable solutions and technologies required to feed the growing population of 10 billion people by 2050. But whenever I get to an interview, I always say, you're looking for interns? I have a really nice LinkedIn profile. So due to the whole mustard gas incident, I needed to find some new friends sophomore year. And so I decided to go out for the marching band, having never played an instrument and knowing how to march. I'm like, I'm good at marching, I can march, and so I'll go. They promised 200 free friends and free food. That's great. So I show up and I'm like, I'm here to play the finger cymbals. And they're like, yeah, we already have that covered. Why don't you go join, we need clarinets. And so they have this beautiful spread of bread and cookies, and I was like, all right, I'll go join the clarinet section. I can play clarinet. And so they bring over a clarinet, and I'm holding it like this, which is not how you hold a clarinet. And they're like, yeah, okay, we're going to teach you the first 4 notes. So I learned my 4 notes, and I said, okay, I'm going to go now. I'm like, no, wait. You got to audition with our drum major, who's the conductor, Buckets. And I'm like, oh, I didn't actually want to join, but I guess it'd be rude to say no. So I auditioned with my 4 squeaky off-key notes. And he's like, congratulations, you're in the Big Red Marching Band. And I was like, huh, I guess Cornell maybe isn't as selective as I thought it was. He's like, here's our rehearsal schedule. Our first rehearsal's tomorrow night. I was thinking, and I brought him over, and I was like, so is there going to be free cookies and food tomorrow night? And he's like, well, yeah, everyone's going to be there. free cookies and dinner. And I'm like, all right, I'm sold. I'm gonna go to the next rehearsal for dinner at least. And so I went to the next rehearsal and I was like, you know, we only played for that rehearsal. I'm gonna march. Like I'm gonna go to the next marching rehearsal because I can march. And so I marched. I went to the marching rehearsal and I was like, all right, well I'll go to the first game to see what all the fuss is about with the marching band. So I went to the first game, and then I was like, well now I gotta go to homecoming. So I went to homecoming, and long story short, it's the end of the semester. I went to every rehearsal and every game, and I'm like, well thank God it's over. And one of my friends was like, oh, you didn't hear? We have pep band now, and that goes till June. And there's no free food. I'm like, what? Okay. But it's too late. They got me. I'm even living in the clarinet house now. But I like to brag, you know, I can play anything as long as it's only 4 notes. Thank you very much. You guys have been